Good morning. My name is Ralph Wood, and I'm currently serving as secretary of this congregation. All are welcome to join our hybrid worship service of the Fourth Unitarian Universalist Congregation of Westchester, where everyone is welcome and everyone belongs. A special welcome to those new to our congregation. We are glad you're joining us this morning. We invite you to stay for our coffee hour after the service. We hope you will sign our guest book. We are a liberal and inclusive community where the members and friends gather to support each other in their spiritual journeys and to give service to the wide world of which we are a part. If you would like to learn more about our congregation and our faith tradition of Unitarian Universalism, we encourage you to connect with Harold Stillman, Lauren Nurme, or Gretchen Grimm from our membership committee after the service. If you are joining us on Zoom, we are pleased. We please put your name and contact information in the chat, and someone will reach out to you. You can also send us an email at fourthuu@gmail.com or visit our website, www.fourthuu.org. Now we're going to have a candle lighting. Bob, you want to help with that?
Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, no, Ben, I didn't realize that.
Okay. And the chalice lighting, let's see. Okay, we got to light the chalice. Pick you up. Okay. Now we have a gathering hymn, which is number 1064 in the teal hymn book. That's this one. Blue Boat Home.
You're all ready, let's start.
Try not to get whacked with the
Stand,
Stand if you're
able, if you like.
willing and able.
For those of you on the sitar, it's the key of D. Below me I feel no motion, standing on these mountains and plains, far away from the rolling ocean, still my darling heart can say, I've been sailing all my life now, never harder or port have I known, the wide universe is the ocean I travel, and the earth is my blue gold. Sun my sail and moon my rudder, as I fly the starry sea, leaning over the edge in wonder, casting questions into the deep, drifting here with my ship's companions, all we kindred pilgrim souls, making our way by the lights of the heavens in our beautiful blue boat. I give thanks to the waves upholding me, hail the great winds urging me on, read the infinite sea before me, sing the sky my sailor's song. I was born upon the fathoms, never harder or more have I known. The wide universe is the ocean I travel, and the earth is my blue boat home.
So we have chalice lighting words this morning are from Noah Yuval Harari's book, Sapiens. The period from about 70,000 years ago to about 30,000 years ago witnessed the invention of boats, oil lamps, bows and arrows, and needles essential for sewing warm clothing. First objects that can reliably be called art date from this era, as does the first clear evidence for religion, commerce, and social stratification. Our language evolved as a way of gossiping. Homo sapiens is primarily a social animal. Social cooperation is our key for survival and reproduction. It is not enough for individual men and women to know the whereabouts of lions and bison. It's much more important for them to know who in their band hates whom, who is sleeping with whom, who is honest, and who is a cheat. The gossip theory might sound like a joke, but numerous studies support it. Even today, the vast majority of human communication, whether in the form of emails, phone calls, or newspaper columns, is gossip. Yet the truly unique feature of our language is not our ability to transmit information about men and lions. Rather, it's the ability to transmit information about things that do not exist at all. As far as we know, only sapiens can talk about entire kinds of entities that they have never seen, touched, or smelled. Fiction has enabled us not merely to imagine things, but to do so collectively. We can weave common myths such as the biblical creation story, the Dreamtime myths of Aboriginal Australians, and the nationalist myths of modern states. Such myths give sapiens the unprecedented ability to cooperate flexibly in large numbers. Sapiens can cooperate in extremely flexible ways with countless numbers of strangers. That's why sapiens rules the world. Now we have our chalice song, which is in the order of service. This chalice ever be a symbol of our unity, that in this hour we now unite our separate flames to make one light. And now we have the unison affirmation, which is in the order of service and also up on the book on the wall. Love is the spirit of this fellowship. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another. And now we have our chance for joys and concerns. And Bob will pass the mic to anyone. Now we have our hymn number 123, Spirit of Life. The words are in the order of service. And now we have our offering, and we have two baskets this morning. The one without a cloth in it is for the benefit of the congregation here, and the one with the cloth is for our longtime group that we support, Open Arms for Refugees.
I sang out a tune, would you stand up and walk out on me? Lend me your ears and I'll sing you a song, and I'll try not to sing out of key. Oh, I get high with help from my friends. Oh, I'm gonna try with help from my friends. Yes, I'm gonna try with help from my friends. What do I do when my love is away? Does it worry you to be alone?
anybody.
I just need someone to love. Could it be anybody? I want somebody to love. Would you believe in a love at first sight? Yes, I'm certain that it happens all the time. What do you see when you turn out the light? I can't tell you, but I know it's mine. I get by with a little help from my friends. Ooh, I get high with a little help from my friends. Ooh, I'm gonna try with a little help from my friends. Do you need anybody? I need somebody to love. Could it be anybody? I want somebody to love. Ooh, I get by with a little help from my friends. Ooh, I get high with a little help from my friends. Ooh, I get high with a little help from my friends. Yes, I get by with a little help from my friends. With a little help from my friends. Could be a hit, could be a hit.
Right. So my topic this morning is, the title is Latest Research on Human Evolution and the Roles of Instinctive and Cooperative Behaviors, an update of, quote, Sapiens, end quote, the book that I read a piece from. About 5 years ago, I did a service on Yuval Noah Harari's book, Sapiens. I have always been fascinated with the role of evolution in creating the instinctive reactions which influence human behavior, often without our knowledge. While wildlife biologists have long recorded animal behaviors and recognized how natural selection influences them, humans have always had a hard time studying our behavior in the same manner and are fond of arguing that our behavior is learned rather than instinctive. As Harari emphasized, one of the secrets of our success as a species is cooperative learning and its incorporation into culture, which he describes as a form of evolution which helps us to adapt much more rapidly than biological evolution. As our culture has become more complex, specialization has become an important element. In the sciences, this emphasis on specialization means that adherents of various specialized fields which study humanity have developed a taboo against stepping outside their specialty and attempting to synthesize an overall understanding of human evolution and its effects on human behavior while incorporating the results of multiple fields of study. Harari, being an historian rather than a scientist, chose to ignore the taboo and write a book which is a tour de force synthesis of research from many fields of study in describing Sapiens, evolution, and behavior. Ever since reading Sapiens, I have been hoping for an update. After all, the book was written based upon lectures he gave at Hebrew University between 2008 and 2010. It was originally published in Hebrew in 2011 and was not published in English until 2014. Even at the time I did my service 5 years ago, the rapid pace of research was making it obsolete. For my 2021 service, I supplemented Harari with other sources, including a 2018 documentary on human evolution titled Out of the Cradle. Unfortunately, Harari has shifted his focus since writing Sapiens. His next two books, Homo Deus in 2016 and 21 Lessons for the 21st Century in 2018, were more of an attempt to predict our future rather than to update his work in Sapiens. He then proceeded in 2020 to create a graphical version of Sapiens, and in 2022 he wrote Unstoppable Us, a children's version of his ideas about human behavior and history. His latest book, Nexus, written in 2024, is an examination of the history of information networks and the development of artificial intelligence. In 2023, I did a service on artificial intelligence in which I explained that Harari's concern about artificial intelligence derives from his deep understanding of human nature. The key importance that language plays in maintaining human culture results in humans being susceptible to persuasive language. Persuasive language is a superpower of large language machine learning systems. These systems are good at sounding authoritative, but lack judgment or values of their own. Therein lies a danger which is of deep concern to Harari. He is an interesting man. He is a gay Israeli who lives with his partner there and is a critic of Netanyahu. He is an atheist, vegan, and Buddhist, and credits his meditation practice as having helped him to develop detachment necessary to write Sapiens. When Trump cut U.S. funding to the World Health Organization during the COVID pandemic, Harari donated $1 million to the WHO. Harari was in his early 30s when he wrote Sapiens. He is now 50 years of age. In September and October 2025, Nova aired a 5-part BBC documentary on human evolution and behavior entitled Human, narrated by paleoanthropologist Ella Al-Shamahi. When I saw all the new research and insights described in this series, I knew it was time to do an update service on Sapiens and snagged one of the last available service slots. It has taken a lot of work since then to put this service together. My first step was to purchase the newest book I could find on the subject, published in mid-2025. It is entitled Exploring the Evolution of Our Ancestors on the Human Track and was written by Dominique Adrians, who is Research Associate of the American Museum of Natural History in New York City. As a specialist in evolutionary morphology, he describes the astounding level of detail we now know about every aspect of the biochemistry and physics behind the operation of each part of the human body. He is able to read the body like a book that describes the history of our evolution. Because of the rapid pace of discoveries, I have also used other internet sources. Even the BBC 2025 documentary is sometimes out of date. Originally aired by the BBC in July 2025, it was 3 years in production. A lot has happened in the last 3 years. Particularly useful is a website of the Smithsonian National Museum of Natural History entitled, quote, What's Hot in Human Origins, end quote. This site publishes research findings by year. Traditionally, human evolution was studied painstakingly unearthing fossils. This approach has been slow and full of holes, but has now been greatly accelerated by our ability to extract and compare ancient and modern DNA. Research in many other fields has contributed. For example, our understanding of the structure and function of various parts of the brain of sapiens and related species is advancing by leaps and bounds. As my research was nearing completion, a new NOVA episode came out in February, describing how DNA was used to determine how mammals evolved. So I've decided to start at the beginning. Doing so better illustrates some of the major themes of this research. Over Earth's history, life has been thrown into many environmental crises, some of which became major extinction events. DNA tells us that sapiens itself almost became extinct, at one point diminishing down to a small number of individuals, from whom most of us are descended. Natural selection teaches that whatever didn't kill a species often led to adaptations that would make that species better able to withstand the next environmental crisis. A related theme is that researchers have tended to oversimplify each evolutionary step and underestimate the abilities of our ancestors at each step. The greater the diversity within a type of species, the better the chance that some ability in one population will be a winner that passes into other populations to help that species survive. So let's start with the origin of mammals. Since we are mammals, the first mammals and their predecessors are also our ancestors. 260 million years ago, there was only one supercontinent called Pangaea. At the time, there was a type of cold-blooded predators called therapsids, which are suspected to be the ancestors of all mammals because of a peculiarity in their skulls. Therapsids survived two major extinction events caused by volcanic activity, one 260 million years ago, and the second 252 million years ago. This second one wiped out 70% of the species on Earth and led to the rise of the dinosaur. Not all therapsid species survived, but one group that did were small burrowers called cynodonts. DNA researchers have now determined that one gene mutation 225 million years ago turned some cynodonts from cold-blooded to warm-blooded. From these cynodonts, all mammals, which by definition are warm-blooded, evolved. At the time that the asteroid hit that led to the extinction of the dinosaur about 65 million years ago, these mammals were tiny burrowers, but with the extinction of the dinosaur, many new environmental niches opened up and mammals evolved to fill them. Now mammals include giant whales and elephants. We are a type of mammal called primates. Monkeys are primates. The closest of these to us in terms of DNA is the chimpanzee, which shares 98.6% of our genes. Our common ancestor with chimps is believed to have lived 9.3 to 6.5 million years ago in north central Africa. At the time that I did my service 5 years ago, I stated that our earliest primate ancestor that could walk on 2 feet was Ardipithecus ramidus 4.4 million years ago. That timeline has now been pushed back to a different primate species, Sahelanthropus, which could walk on 2 feet 7 million years ago. Still, these early primates were primarily tree dwellers. Environmental changes in East and South Africa caused woods to begin to recede and become grasslands about 4 million years ago. At that time, new primate species evolved, which we now call Australopithecines. Although there were several different types and sizes with different diets, they are characterized by their increasing use of bipedal or two-legged locomotion as compared with the earlier primates. The characterization of these species as upright walking, hairy apes has been shown to be wrong. Although their brains were much smaller than ours, they used stone tools and were losing their hair and developing a sweat glands to improve their locomotion without overheating. As they lost their hair, their skin color turned from light to dark. This dark skin color became feature of all our ancestors up to and including modern sapiens until a mere 6,000 years ago, when a single gene in some sapiens mutated to cause lighter color skin. Although the DNA of domesticated plants tells us that agriculture first developed in the Fertile Crescent running from the Tigris and Euphrates River in Iraq to the Nile River in Egypt about 14,000 to 12,000 years ago, by 6,000 years ago, this innovation had moved into more northern climates and it affected the diet of sapiens who lived there. While hunter-gatherers had a diet rich in vitamin D, agriculture was not so rich in this vitamin. It is believed that the skin pigment gene mutation improved the production of vitamin D from sunlight, thereby compensating for this deficiency. At any rate, by 2 million years ago, Australopithecine had evolved into Homo erectus, the first of our ancestors to leave Africa. Homo erectus was a hunter that had so perfected its bipedal locomotion that it could run down its prey, which it hunted with stone-tipped spears. As a migratory hunting species, it traveled widely. Traces of erectus are being found around Europe dating to almost 2 million years ago and have been found in Indonesia dating to over 1 million years ago. Erectus didn't finally go extinct until about 100,000 years ago, after the evolution of several hominid species that evolved from it. Although erectus gradually died off around Europe and Asia, the current theory is that in Africa it evolved into what is now being called Homo antecessor, which made it to Spain from North Africa about 800,000 years ago, Neanderthals are believed to have evolved from African ancestors in Europe as an adaptation to the ice ages that were happening there. Denisovans, known almost exclusively from their DNA, mixed with that of Neanderthal and Sapiens, evolved from Neanderthal about 400,000 years ago, according to the DNA evidence. From their DNA, we know that Denisovans had dark skin, brown hair, and brown eyes. From Denisovans interbreeding with Sapiens, Tibetans gained a gene which aids breathing in low oxygen atmosphere at high altitude. We know much more about Neanderthal. They stood about 5 feet 5 tall, shorter and bigger around than Sapiens. From clues about their brain shape and the operation of their tongues gained from studying skulls, we believe Neanderthal had language. They also had burial rituals and adorned themselves with jewelry. They were creating fire with flints and using it 400,000 years ago. They were close-up hunters of big game and lived in smaller bands and were more migratory than Sapiens. Although they interbred with Sapiens during 3 separate periods, from 250,000 to 200,000 years ago, from 120,000 to 100,000 years ago, and from 60,000 to 50,000 years ago, little Sapiens DNA ended up among the Neanderthal. The prevailing theory has been that Neanderthal women must have been mating with Sapiens men, and the children being raised by Sapiens. However, a new DNA study published in February posits that actually Neanderthal men were mating with women with Sapiens ancestry, but the function of the X chromosome was leading to Neanderthal DNA gradually dissipating in the resulting population. In any case, from the interbreeding, Sapiens gained improvements in reproduction, adaptation to the cold, immune response to local conditions. However, we also got Crohn's disease from Neanderthal DNA. Although most people have about 2% Neanderthal DNA, each person gets a little something different. So as much as 50% of Neanderthal DNA can be found in Sapiens. By about 20,000 years ago, both Neanderthal and Denisovans were extinct. But it's not believed that we were directly responsible for this extinction. Harsh ice age conditions and decimated Sapiens and as well, and populations. So contrary to the evolutionary sequence I described 5 years ago, it is now believed that the erectus who remained in Africa evolved into Homo rhodesiensis. Perhaps it was these who built the 476,000-year-old wooden structure recently found in Zambia. The current theory is that Sapiens evolved in Africa from rhodesiensis. Fossils of a primitive form of Sapiens dating to about 300,000 years ago were first found in Morocco. But examples have been found around Africa that are almost as old. Although this theory has had broad acceptance, it has now been called into question by a 1 million-year-old primitive skull classed as a Homo species found in China, which is not Homo erectus, Neanderthal, Denisovan, or Sapiens. From this skull, arguments are being made for Asia as the origin point of Sapiens and Neanderthal. On Thursday, this past Thursday, New Scientist magazine published a YouTube video about this skull hosted by Ella Shamahi, the same paleoanthropologist that hosted the Nova BBC series. This discovery, so I had to revise this after watching that. The discovery fits that pattern of previous oversimplification at every step of the evolutionary process. Homo fossils, older than the previously discovered 300,000-year-old primitive African sapiens fossils, are also being found in Morocco. Primitive Homo populations were clearly widely dispersed through Africa, Europe, and Asia 1 million years ago. Judging from what we know of Neanderthal, Denisova, and Sapiens DNA, it is likely that they varied by population and occasionally interbred. However, due to the harsh Ice Age conditions which periodically ravaged Europe and Asia, combined with DNA evidence, my money is on Africa as the primary source of sapiens DNA. 275,000 years ago, wild climate swings in Africa swelled rivers and lakes in some areas and created deserts in other places. These environmental changes are believed to have cut off sapiens populations from each other and provided differing survival challenges. These populations eventually came back together, shared their new skills they had developed, and interbred to form a continent-wide, more advanced, interconnected culture. Stringable shell beads with holes in them that were apparently used as a part of trading system have been found around the continent, dating back to as early as 150,000 years ago. By that time, sapiens skulls looked like a fully modern person. By that time, sapiens had traveled far outside Africa and interbred with Neanderthal and Denisovans. By 60,000, 70,000 years ago, they were creating cave art in both Africa and elsewhere. However, DNA tells us that most of these sapiens outside of Africa died due to harsh Ice Age conditions. Based upon DNA, it is now believed that most of us are descended from a small number of sapiens that crossed the Red Sea in boats or rafts out of East Africa about 60,000 years ago. This migration may have been precipitated by environmental effects in Africa from the eruption of the Toba volcano in Indonesia 77 to 69,000 years ago. This new wave of sapiens spread rapidly around Europe and Asia, connecting and interbreeding with small numbers of sapien survivors in those areas. By as much as 50,000 years ago, sapiens made the astounding trip by boat or raft over 60 miles of open ocean to Australia. Until recently, it was believed to have been impossible due to impassable Ice Age glaciers for sapiens to have reached North and South American continent before 15,000 years ago. The BBC documentary shows footprints in White Sands, New Mexico, which had been dated to 22,000 years ago. At the time of filming, that dating was still controversial, but has since been confirmed, and DNA shows that the first wave of sapiens came from Asia to the North and South America as much as 30,000 years ago. It is now believed that sapiens were traveling by boat and rapidly populated the West Coast all the way down South America. The fossil evidence of this got submerged when the glaciers melted 15,000 years ago. Sapiens likely brought dogs with them to the Americas. DNA tells us that dogs were domesticated from Eurasian wolves about 40,000 years ago. Theory has it that wolves hung around sapiens campsites looking for scraps and began to fend off other predators to improve their chances of getting scraps. Recognizing a useful companion that could be trained to assist in hunts, sapiens made an early step towards taming other animal species for their use. We developed the gene for consumption of sheep and goat milk 7,000 years ago. DNA tells us that cats originated in Egypt about 4,000 years ago from African wildcats. The theory goes that the wildcats were drawn to where vermin were feeding on Egyptian grain stores and were domesticated to help control the predation of the grain stores. Although agriculture caused population centers to rapidly expand in size, sapiens already had a natural inclination to congregate in large numbers, to share skills, stories, and rituals, when food supplies were sufficiently abundant to allow this. The well-built gathering place of Göbekli Tepe in Turkey, at 11,500 years old, was for hunter-gatherers, agriculture not having reached that area by that time. Agriculture for the first time produced a sufficient surplus of food so that population exploded, and some could devote their entire energies to skills other than food production. Culture developed stratification and the patriarchy, with elites having exclusive access to specialized knowledge such as how to read languages, languages began to be created about 5,000 years ago. With the development of such nation states and elites came wars, slavery, indentured servitude. The BBC documentary, Human, suggests that the first step towards less stratification and greater technological progress was the invention of the alphabet by lowly copper miners in the Sinai Desert about 3,000 years ago. As the alphabet used phonetic symbols to describe commonly understood speech, more people could learn to read. The more people who were able to gain specialized written knowledge, the more opportunity there was for creativity and innovation based upon that knowledge. I agree with that suggestion and believe that trend accelerated with the invention of the printing press and then the internet. I suspect Harari would agree as well. I'm not suggesting that these innovations have ended the human propensity to use culture for oppression and exploitation. But the spread of written culture also permits more flexible, creative, and innovative cooperation. Harari cites statistics to argue that culture has played a part in recent decades in reducing human violence. If you're incredulous about that, read Sapiens or the work of Harvard professor Steven Pinker, upon whom Harari was drawing. The large language machine learning artificial intelligences that are now evolving use huge quantities of writings that have been expanding exponentially with the proliferation of writers using printed books and the internet. There is a potential with AI to evolve our technology and culture in very positive ways. If humans can remember to take what these artificial intelligences say as the starting point of a broad conversation among humans, rather than the end of the discussion. Humans will more than ever need to exercise their intellectual muscles for curiosity, critical thinking, communication, and cooperation skills for these developments to not cause more harm than good. By the time 5 years has passed since my last service on artificial intelligence in 2023, I suspect we will be discussing the effects of the invention of true artificial general intelligence. For my own part, I chose to research and write this sermon without the aid of AI because, as I said, it's critical that we all continue to exercise those intellectual muscles rather than just relying on machines. I've had to leave out much of what I learned while doing this research and hope when we get to congregational sharing that you'll have some good questions for me to the extent we have time. So now we have the closing hymn, which is number 134.
Stand as you are able, wish to. Our world is one world, one touches one affects us all. The seas that wash us round about, the clouds that cover us, the rains that fall. Our world is one world, the thoughts we think affect us all. The way we build our attitudes with love or hate we make, a bridge or wall. Our world is one world, its ways of wealth affect us all. The way we spend, the way we share, who are the rich or poor, who stand or fall. Our world
So I hope we have a little time for a congregational sharing. I'll need somebody to volunteer to pass the mic around.
I'll do it.
Thank you.
Oh, sorry. Now I know what Bob was. Thank you, Ralph. That was impressive summary. Obviously, the product of a lot of work. And that Sapiens is a heavy book, and it's literally heavy. The pages are thick, and when I lift it, been reading through it, it's a real effort. As you said, knowledge is expanding exponentially, and with AI, it's remarkable in all kinds of areas. The things we're learning and progress is being made. I had a question about, in reviewing things, did you see anything about what's happening with the possibility of cloning ancient animals? Dolly the sheep was cloned years ago, and I know there's some companies trying to take the DNA of mastodons and the like, and there are ethical issues there, of course, but I'm just curious if you saw anything about that. And then I don't know that you mentioned it, but didn't mammals evolve from the sea originally? The animals were in the sea, they came to land, and then some, like whales, went back to the sea. And part of the evidence for that is that our plasma is very much like salt water. And finally, I thought the lemur was one of the first mammals that evolved towards us. I don't know if you came across, I just remember that from biology, about something about that the lemur was an early manifestation of mammals. Thanks.
Yeah, well, I'll see if I can get all those things. As far as the mammals, we all initially evolved out of the ocean, small, two-cell organisms and so forth, but they now think that the earliest mammals were evolved from these cynodonts, and they were not sea-dwelling. Okay, so that's one of your questions. The cloning, I didn't do research on that. What little I know about it is that they probably could do a lot already, but there is some taboos developing about doing this kind of research, questions of potential environmental harm and so forth. So I don't think, I know that the Chinese scientists that did the dolly got into trouble with the Chinese authorities. That's still an open area. What was the other thing you asked? You got your notes there.
The sea.
Lemur. Yeah. I don't know I know that the earliest of the mammals were burrowers, small burrowers that were scampering around under the dinosaurs' feet. But what exactly, which ones, I don't know. It may not be any ones that are still around now. Go ahead.
Are you okay? Yeah, I thank you for bringing this service to us. I read 'Sapiens twice, actually. I find it endlessly fascinating. I mean, not all at once, but like here, parts. But I don't have a question, just a fun fact, which I find it so fun to think about, that when, you mentioned about how Homo sapiens got to Australia eventually, and it was the last place that they got to. And so evolution had gone on undisturbed for all these thousands of years. And just to imagine when they got there, they found, not only kangaroos and wallabies and all the things that we think of as these, weird animals, all these marsupials, but they were 10 feet tall. They were kangaroos that were 10 feet tall and wombats that were gigantic, as big as elephants. And I don't know, just picture their faces like, whoa, what is that? It's just fun. Yeah, like the Galapagos. Right.
Yeah, well, of course, that wasn't the last place. They got to North and South America after Australia. But
Oh, I thought, oh, well, okay.
yeah, and Harari tells, and I did this in the original service on Sapiens, about how these large potential prey species disappeared from Australia shortly after we arrived.
Coincidence.
And the same thing, he argued the same thing happened in North and South America. But again, he's out of date as far as North and South America because we got there a lot earlier than what he knew. So the species, the large prey species that were here for a lot longer after we got here. So we may not have been the sole reason why they disappeared.
But he did talk about that everywhere we got, the
Yeah.
species somehow coincidentally disappeared.
Right.
You know, so, yeah.
I want to thank you. It was absolutely fascinating. As you were talking toward the end about AI, that brought some concerns I have to mind. Today, with our greedy world that we're living in right now, how do you think that will affect? You seem fairly positive about it, but how do you think it will affect us, all of us, eventually?
It's hard to say. Like I said, there's potential for good and bad there. And when I did my last service on this, I couldn't have even imagined where we are now or where we're likely to be in another 2 years. It's absolutely mind-boggling to think that we may reach artificial intelligence, general intelligence, within that time, the next 2 years. And there's a lot of potential for good and bad. What I argued when I did the last service was the theory that it was going to be a huge job killer. When we first started with automation, and it was being done originally, jobs like Ford production lines that were done by almost inhuman conditions by people. And there was a lot of concern about what would happen if machines did that. That's when the word robot was invented. And what's actually transpired is the exact reverse. In the 30s, we had an unemployment rate of 25%. It's now 4%. Despite massive introduction of automation and robotics around, and without that, we wouldn't have been able to remain competitive in the world market. So it's not so easy to predict. What my son tells me, who works in AI, is that what's happening now is that somebody gets an idea for a new product or a new app or whatever, and they go out looking for financing. They can get a small amount of financing and start up and have a company going much more rapidly because of the use of AI. So there's a potential for a big expansion of new companies and new products, and big increases in productivity as well. And as far as this dislocation of our workforce, there's a potential to use AI to help retrain people. So it's hard to really say. Change is always going to happen, no matter whether you want it or you don't want it. And so it's better to face it and try to work with it rather than fight it.
I think it's Eric. I think what's interesting about what Elaine is asking about is it seems like there's prediction is less to me a concern than the idea of the question of who is driving the change, right? Because people who make these sort of apps, like we know, like Silicon Valley, all of these things that people talk about, they're driving for the edge that's created by destruction, right? And that more and more, the more we use these tools, I'm just going, Clark turned 14 yesterday, right? And so a lot of our conversations come from the hypocrisy they find from not being allowed to use ChatGPT, but the lessons when they analyze them are 95% generated through ChatGPT. So, and because they're teenagers, they're cynical and all this other stuff. So, but the one thing that you see is that there's this destructive property on the other end where you create through destruction, but then on the other hand, we're all losing our ability to discern. So it's really just a question, right, of what kind, to me at least, the fear I come is that because we are less engaged with our critical thinking, the kind that led to the evolutionary jumps, right, that we're just not going to have the ability to ask the kind of questions that would be required, right, to keep these things under control, especially with the rapidity with which these advancements are coming. But I appreciate you bringing this because it causes us to think in this way.
Well, I actually think that these developments require more critical thinking, not less, because these, as I mentioned, a big concern of Harari is that these large language models are very good at sounding authoritative. And you really have to not rely upon what they say. And the people who are working with them, some of you may have seen the New York Times article about this. They like have to coax these things, and they treat them almost like you would treat a person, but they love it because it increases their productivity. It's going to be important that we're not relying just on these large companies that are developing them. The other thing my son explained to me is it takes a lot of resources to create a large language model, not to use it. So it's going to be important that they allow people to work with these so that the knowledge that we gain spreads in the same way it's spread from the internet, language, and so forth. But it's going to have to be people not, using them wisely, and otherwise it'll lead to disaster.
David, thanks, Ralph, as always. Informative, stimulating, and much food for thought. I'm struck by the, as you described, basically the exponential increase in awareness and in the modeling and in the research and in the discoveries, that just seems to be accelerating. I mean, that's the definition of exponential, right? That it seems to be able to build on itself in ways that, yes, are extremely hard to predict as to, what may happen. I don't know what Harari's latest book is, if you're saying it's more about prediction, what he's actually predicting. Is it more positive? Is it just more open question?
I haven't read it, but he's very worried about AI. And it's because of his understanding about human nature and the way we're influenced by culture.
Yeah, and that kind of just one other observation, not a criticism at all, but the moral and the ethical dimensions of evolution perhaps cannot be studied scientifically, but are certainly an important part of the mix of human interaction and human relationship. And you can't just let it go. And whether you can incorporate that into AI, I don't know. That's a very open question.
When Eric mentioned the idea of who's in the driver's seat, basically who's driving this stuff, I've told some my youngster coworkers when I've gathered that they're maybe scoffing at my hesitation at AI. I say, well, what good and humanity bettering things, ideas, products have come out of frigging Silicon Valley?
My son works at the DeepMind division of Google, which was founded by a guy who got the Nobel Prize for using AI to create new molecules that are used for many health-related things. That's just one small example.
I hope it comes out well in the balance, but yeah, it does seem like a rather balance-shaking thing. And for another book title, and how have Harari's later works proven to be prescient, or have they been proven to be prescient? His later work?
I haven't read them, so I'm not really sure.
I might get on that, and we can chat. And there's another title that I found fascinating that actually helped lead me to visit a certain country because I liked some things I learned about them from this. Behave, the Biology of Humans at Our Best and Worst. 600 pages, get the audiobook.
Do you know the name of the author of that one? Sapolsky. Okay.
Sapolsky.
Our book club is reading a book about Jane Goodall, and one of the stories in the book talks about a chimpanzee who falls in the water, and she said that chimpanzees do not know how to swim. They will drown if they're in the water. And going back to Jim's point, there are things that we have, like webbed fingers, webbed toes, no hair, that tend to indicate that we're a species that developed along, if not in the water, at the border of the water and the land. And your comment that our common ancestor climbed into a boat and went across the Red Sea without fear of falling overboard and dying, again indicates that we're an aquatic species. We're, for some reason, we've developed the ability to live close to water. So that was very interesting.
Well, the linchpin that took an economic catastrophe in the 30s, where you had upwards to 30% of the people without work to do, to the 4 or whatever percent we're dealing with now, was the war to end all wars, and the destruction of tens of millions of people to do that. So I think we have to make sure that we do not divorce ourselves from that information and knowledge, because it's really easy to push that aside. It's so horrendous. And I could mention other kinds of things that have to do with expanding productivity, like slavery, that also generated enormous capital success. So, yeah, I think in staying sapient, we have to stay with those contradictions and those tensions, those human tensions. And the idea that this other stuff is going to eliminate all that, and we don't have to do that work, is an inherently dangerous direction to go.
I agree with you.
One more question?
Go ahead.
Anybody, one more question? You want an update?
I just wanted to say to Josh, in terms of humans and water, that even our most solid citizens are 2/3 water.
And with that, who else is online? I think we have Rachel and Maura. You guys are online. Would you like to, do you have a question or comment before we close this session and close our service? No. Just want to thank everybody for coming. And Ralph, you see all the people that we haven't seen in a little while came to see you. Thank you so much for this excellent service. Thank you, everybody.
We have time for announcements.
That was somebody.
What's the big rush?
Rachel Bloom.
Go ahead, Rachel.
Oh, hi. I was it just bothered me. it sounded as though Ralph had a positive feeling towards the idea of language and the spreading of culture, and that it led to less violence and so forth because we were communicating with each other. And here we now have the internet. And I think that the present situation is a little less humane in that there is this polarization that has happened that is, troubling. And you used a phrase that something about human beings are vulnerable to persuasive speech or something like that. And I think what's happening is that we have been persuaded by, well, Trump and MAGA and all that kind of thing into a situation where we are polarized against each other rather than the role of communication bringing us together to a better world. So what can we do about that?
Very, very on target there, Rachel. What I was saying is knowledge is the key to everything, and you have to have cooperation and sharing of knowledge, and those are the two most important things. It's culture, as I said, has been used for exploitation and oppression. And that's a long, long history, and it's not going away. The culture is created by language. So,
well, they call this the post-truth era.
Yeah.
And that was
okay. So, any other sharing before I go to announcements? Okay, I want to.
That was great.
Oh, thank you. I wanted to tell you all about our Susan Schefflein Memorial Poetry Book. And I put 2 copies up here on the front, and you can take a look at them. And for those of you who are new here, Susan Schefflein was a beloved member of this congregation, 3-time president, a wonderful speaker, and a wonderful poet. And she died, and when she died, we did a fundraiser to memorialize her. And the 2 things we did is we bought a bench for our memorial garden with a plaque with her name on it. And we created this poetry book of her poetry. And we're thinking of doing another fundraiser where people can buy the book if they're interested. You'll see up here 2 copies, a hardbound and a paperbound. And we're thinking of offering the hardbound for $150 and the paperbound for $50. So if anybody is interested in that, come up and take a look at it. It's really beautifully done by Pam Cook, who put it together. And so let me know if anybody's interested, and then the board will decide whether we're going to do a fundraiser to sell this book. Right now, we just bought a copy for her husband and a copy to keep in the lobby, and it'll be there in the lobby for anybody that wants to look at it. I just wanted to say about Susan that she did many services here, lay services. It's a long tradition we had and still have, I hope. It's why I'm here doing this, of people doing lay services. It's part of our shared ministry with our minister, Reverend Cobb. And so I hope all of you will think about what you have to share with the congregation and come up here. Other announcements?
Yeah, Carol, you should come up or stand up and use this mic. Okay, please.
Just a reminder, it was in the fourth word, but just a reminder that Easter breakfast will be on Easter, April 4th, 5th, that's Sunday. And so at 9 o'clock before the service, so just bring something breakfasty to share and come join us. What's that?
6 a.m.
Yeah, breakfast will be after that. For those of you who do 6 a.m., Croton Point, okay? Otherwise, for the slugs like some of the rest of us, so just 9 o'clock.
Are you sure of the dates of the Easter birthday?
No, I said whatever Easter is, April 5th.
Mornings are beautiful, they just come at the wrong time of the day.
Hi. The social justice team is in the process of working with a number of other groups in our area to have a discussion and showing of the film. We're not going to film. No film. Okay. A viewing of a slideshow and presentation on the kind of anti-ICE program that we are looking to bring everybody together with. This kind of came out of Lane and I viewing this program at the Croton Fellowship just about 2 months ago. And I said this could be a really good way of beginning to open up and reach out to other faith communities and justice organizations in our immediate area. So we're going to continue to do that, even though over the last 2 months, so much has happened that this has fallen, as always, onto the sidelines, into the background, and does not resonate the way it had been. We're going for it anyway, and we're looking for it looks like the last Sunday, April 26th. Will be the date. We had originally thought of trying to hold it here, but we're anticipating a larger, bringing together a larger group than we can accommodate. So it looks like it will either be, we're looking into either the Presbyterian Church on Route 202 and 132 in Yorktown, or Grace Lutheran, which is up Route 6 a little bit on Curry Street. And we'll just keep everybody informed as we go along with the plans.
Thank you, everybody.
Tell us closing words, which are in the order of service. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of love, fellowship, and truth. May we hold it in our hearts until we gather again. And now for the song benediction. May the long time sun shine upon you, all love surround you, and the pure light within you guide your way on. May the long time sun shine upon you, all love surround you, and the pure light within